Hey guys, Freddy here. Welcome back to a smooth-shaven retro RPG. Because at the end of another week, the end of another poll, we've got a very slim win for the Darktek Sourcebook for Dark Conspiracy. Now I'll be going over to the desktop to have a look through that in a wee second. And as usual, I'll be back at the end of the video with some other channel-related stuff and some other poll-related stuff. But before I do that, I'd like to take a moment to talk about my Patreons, who are wonderful, wonderful people who I'd like to thank from the absolute bottom of my heart for their support of the channel. Their efforts are so much appreciated. But I have to ask, if you'd like to support the channel, and I sure wish you would, or you'd like to see these videos a week early, or you'd like to gain access to one of the other levels of patronage we've got, then we've got a Patreon in the description down below. If you check it out, it'd be very much appreciated. But anyway, let's get on and have a look through the Darktek Sourcebook. So, this is the Darktek Sourcebook. It's for Dark Conspiracy role-playing game. It's by Games Designers Workshop, and it came out in 1991. And basically, it's an equipment book. It has various human technology, but it focuses, at least in the beginning, on dark tech. This is technology brought by the beings who have come through the rifts which have been torn in space-time and have arrived with aliens and that. This is mainly organic technology of non-human creation. So it focuses on that, and there are specific rules for that equipment. But it has lots and lots of human stuff in it as well to bulk out the pages. Now, going over to the back cover. Behind the shadows of our world, the Dark Ones lurk, plotting humanity's ruin. Their dark minions stalk us, armed with horrific devices, the products of strange and hideous sciences. Human agents capture what they can, hoping for weapons that will aid them in their fight. And in some secret strongholds, individual ETs who have escaped the darkness labour side by side with human scientists creating items to hold the Dark Ones off. Meanwhile, the megacorporate sector pursues technologies that pander to the wealthy. For many, HiTek is the truest symbol of high status, worn like a coat of arms. It distinguishes the movers and shakers from the increasingly disenfranchised hordes of commoners below. In this volume, we find items ranging from gruesome biologic weapons of the Dark Minions to the futuristic constructs of the ETs to the most advanced in human technology, but all belong in the world of Dark Conspiracy, a world that is itself evermore a product of dark tech. So, as you can see, this is going to be equipment. Inside, we've got Games Designers Workshop's publishing standards, which had some absolutely awesome artwork. They're also very clear, as most of the 90s books tend to be. We've got credits page, contents, and then a section talking about dark tech, getting the most out of it. The nature of dark tech, prices and availability, user costs. So dark tech itself, the biological items, operate by draining the user's own life energy, causing intense craving for meat to restore the energy that has been lost. So when the aliens use them, they have natural energy enough to power this equipment. But humans are not powerful enough, so must eat large chunks of raw meat, stuff that has been dead less than 2 hours. The user is compelled to consume for each minute or fraction of the item is used. Total feeding requirement is found by multiplying the feed rating by the number of combat turns the Darktek device was used. So you're going to be being pretty gross as a requirement for using some of this equipment. How to control it, where it can be detected, recharging it, and removing Darktek. Because, as I said, this is biological stuff. So we go into biological items, and we've got the antidoter, which looks like a small insect. You attach it. Given the host organism's tissue and blood, as well as a little analysis time, this biomechanism can produce antidotes to virtually any toxin. We've got body bags, the Darkling answer to the all-environment suit, a bag that attaches round you. Air cloners, a very rare device for extension and extrapolation of the rejuvenator. Empathic beacons, erector, a growing fibroid lattice that creates quick structural frames for Darkling buildings. Esperlinks, linking minds via empathic power. So some of these items are more descriptive, where people will encounter them. People building buildings isn't something a player is going to want to do a lot, but the face dancer, a bioconstruct that overlays the user's face and melds with the tissue there, creating the equivalent of a living mask.
obviously named after the face dancers in the Dune series of books. Graftables, body parts that adapt to the biological physiology of the recipient organism, replacing lost body parts. Inhabitors, another modification of brain-computer technology, insinuates itself into electronic and mechanical systems, so linking people with various technologies so you can control a vehicle. Obedience bugs, which go into somebody's ear and control them, making them part of the alien's hive mind. Obviously, that's based on the insects in Star Trek 2, I think. It looks very familiar. A rejuvenator, a healing device. And then we've got pieces of artwork showing and then describing as people use some of the technology in the book. I'm not keen on these pages. They're nice enough artwork, but they don't really add much. Running box dramatically boosts the physical attributes of the host organism. Sleeper defends itself by using quiescent brainwave state of threatening organisms, so it puts people to sleep. Sniffers, spectral eyes. Again, some artwork, some aliens on one of the discs, which we'll come to later in it, and various battle robots, which we will also come to. Viners, empathic viruses. Viral mutators. Empathic viral ravenizer. Creates an almost insatiable need for very fresh meat. And then we're on to electronic devices, so these look more like human devices. And we've got cable taps, navigation systems, computer pads, controllers, notebooks, the Toshiba T12886SX, equipped with 20 megabytes of RAM and a 200 megabyte hard disk. Featherlight devices. What else we got? Microcams, microwave personal communicators, multi-locks, palm top computers, talk programmers, ET translators, Vizimap, and a white noise generator. Lots of stuff which will be useful to players. And we've got weapons. The bolter, the CS I-1B, or LLB, a combat environment multi-suit, the deliquiser, I'm not quite sure how that's pronounced at all. Basically, some dark minions convert themselves to gelatinous form and then restructure. This weapon does it as well, so you can turn somebody into goo, but you can also return them afterwards. Quite a good weapon for capturing people. And large vehicles involved in combat here, next to one of the corporate dreamlands. The cities which are controlled by the corporations and obviously where the very rich live. Exoskeletons, icebox, high cycle lasers, somebody fighting some kind of demonic creature there, laser blinder, monofilament machetes, mini saws, so a chainsaw type device, resonators, shotgun derringers, sawed-off shotgun, sonic crowd control machine, sonic sunners, spear guns, spectral gatherer, obviously a very organic weapon, ET stun gun, stun stick, and a vampiric sword. Looks like it's grown from crystals. Then we're on to more human vehicles here. So we've got an aircraft here, VTOL aircraft, showing different ones in operation. We've got the alien floating discs. This reminds me of the Mekon out of Dan Dare comic. Very British. I'm not sure anybody in America is aware of that. But they used to have an alien leader with a massive brain who rode around on a floating disc because his body was withered and weak. We'll come to this. It's a sort of EVA item used by aliens. Javelin plane, jump about, which is very similar to the Ospreys of Cyberpunk. The BMW 1700 XHI. Wind Sprite aircraft. Bigfoot, the one we saw earlier. All-terrain vehicle, because parts of the country have fallen to these rifts and become controlled, so exploring parts of America and regaining it has needs of these big armored vehicles. Electrostar, the Travel Master, the X-12 and X-14, obviously VTOL aircraft, a folder pad, very organic. The Space Swimmer, the one we saw, a hermetically sealed organism that some Dark Minions use as a small space vehicle. The Underwater Sled. Then we've got robots of different types. BuildBot looks like a sort of remote-controlled drone, but this looks far more advanced and far more deadly. Those blades and things on the front are quite horrific. Loadmaster, made for you. The Slaughterbot, nicely named. Snoopbots, trackers, like a big spider there. We can see the underwater one here with one of the underwater drones and one of those underwater sleds we saw. The Warbot that we saw earlier. A large sort of pillar on tripod legs with lots of guns attached. Watchdogs. An alien working with some humans. A patrol attack tour. Probe repair tour. Telepresence operations station. So you remotely control these from one of those. So they're like drones. Construction drones, probe drones, repair drones. A scorpion with a hand on its tail. Very cool. The war drone. It just looks fantastic. That reminds me of so many comic things I saw in my youth. Then we've got miscellaneous equipment, an external airlock, auto beacons, emergency balls, chameleon suits, flare guns, grapple guns, paragliders, thermal suits and space suits there, zero-G transfer systems, and consumer goods, so holographic art, interactive TV. And then we get back, variable glasses and wall screens. So, it's a lot of technology. Some of it will be seen day to day, but some of it is going to be stuff that the Games Master can roll out against the players. But all of it's going to be stuff that players kind of want. You want to have a robot on your side, you want to have a fantastic vehicle, you want to have weapons which can turn people to goo and then restore them if you want it. Some fantastic stuff in there, and I just like the tone of the Dark Conspiracy game, where it feels a lot more lighter and pulp than a lot of these cyberpunk type of games at the time took similar equipment.
So, that was the Darktek Sourcebook, and that won the poll this week with some 31% of the vote, only narrowly ahead of the second place, the World Book 17 Warlords of Russia for Rifts, which came in on 27%. But that was shooting up the rankings while I was looking through the Darktek Sourcebook because it took an early lead. That gap was closing and I was very worried that I'd been looking at the wrong book. But when I had to close off the poll, Darktek was still ahead. And in third position was Secrets of Shadowloo for Street Fighter, which came in on 24%. And in last place, we've got the Black Fury's Stride book for Werewolf the Apocalypse, which came in on only 18%. But all of those are put aside. We'll be covering them at some point because they're in my collection, so I do want to cover them at some point. But we're going over to a Retro Adventures poll. And some of these have been in the poll before, some of them are new, but the Shadowrun in here, the Star Wars in here, so I think it's going to be a fight between those two, with the others discarded. But you might surprise me. First up, we've got the Outcasts for the Star Trek role-playing game from Fazer, which came out in 1985. Now, we've looked through a bunch of the Star Trek adventures in the past, and they have been absolutely brilliant. Very, very interesting ideas in there, going away from what you would expect just standard for Star Trek. They do have some fantastic ideas blended in there. So it'll be interesting to see if this is one of those, or whether one where they do tend to base it more on an episode. But we shall see if it wins. Second up, we've got Classic Adventures Volume 3 for the Star Wars role-playing game, West End Games, and it came out in 1996. Now this is a compendium of 3 different adventures, and a couple of those are absolutely classic, but all 3 are very, very good. So it'll be very interesting to cover those. It'll be a bunch of work to cover 3 adventures, but it's all in one book, so it'll be kind of fun. After that, we've got Dark Angel for Shadowrun, came out from Fazer in 1993. Now, I've covered all of the early adventures and we're slowly working our way through the series, but this is still a second edition in Shadowrun adventure, so very early on, And these were very iconic adventures, lots to love in them. So it'll be a joy to cover this if it wins. And finally, we've got Nightwalker: The Villi Affair for Millennium's End, came out from Chameleon Eclectic in 1991. Now, this is 2 adventures. I have run both of these in the past, and they are absolutely brilliant. But the chances of getting Millennium's End to win a poll are so slim. But as I said, maybe you'll surprise me and get me to cover one of these fantastic sourcebooks, because Millennium's End was so well done, really, really brilliant in their presentation, and so well thought out, and a very interesting game in its own right. But kind of forgotten about now, so sadly doesn't win many of these polls. But go on, surprise me, we shall see. What else have I been up to this week? Well, over on RPG Gamer, we're coming to the very end of the Legacy series of comics. Actually, this morning I did my review of issue number 49 out of 50. So we're getting very much to the end of this. But I cannot see, because I'm not reading ahead, how the story will end within 2 issues. There just seems too much to finish off. But I do know that there's the Legacy War series, 6 issues which came out after that. Now, they did the same for the Knights of the Old Republic comics, but the War series was kind of unrelated to the main series. It was the further adventures of the main character. Whereas I think this will be covering some war within the Sith, some war within the galaxy, as it finishes off the storylines. I think this is going to be a true follow-up and sequel, rather than just a further adventures of. And including that, there's a Legacy series which they brought out a few years later. So I'll be interested to see if that follows up as well, or whether that's a totally separate story. But for the moment, as soon as I finish the Legacy comics, I'm going to move on to War before taking any kind of break. So we'll be blending them in kind of together. Anyway, as usual, I think I've been whittering on for quite long enough. So thank you very much for watching. But as always, most of all, you look after yourselves. And I'll catch you later. Bye now.